Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Chasing English, the place where we read amazing stories together to practice English every day. Reading stories is one of the best ways to improve your English, so let's read, learn, and enjoy together. Today, we will travel back in time to meet one of the most famous queens in history, Cleopatra. Her life was full of power, love, courage, and dreams. This is not just a history lesson, it's like watching a movie with kings, queens, battles, and big adventures. So sit back, relax, and let's start our journey. A baby with a big destiny. Over 2,000 years ago, in 69 BCE, a baby girl was born in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. Her name was Cleopatra VII, and one day she would become the last queen of ancient Egypt. Cleopatra was born into a royal family called the Ptolemaic dynasty. Her family had ruled Egypt for many years, but they were originally from Greece. Her ancestor Ptolemy I was one of Alexander the Great's generals. After Alexander died, Ptolemy became king of Egypt. Her father was King Ptolemy XII, and her mother might have been Cleopatra V, but historians are not 100% sure. Life in the palace. Cleopatra grew up in a beautiful palace with gold, jewels, fine clothes, and many servants. She also had the best teachers. But life in the royal family was not always safe. Family members often fought for the throne, and sometimes they even hurt each other to get power. From a young age, Cleopatra learned one important thing. Knowledge is power. While most women in her time could not study, Cleopatra learned many languages: Greek, Latin, Egyptian, Hebrew, and more. People said she could speak at least 7 languages fluently. She also studied science, math, literature, and politics. More than just a pretty queen, Cleopatra was smart and curious, but she also had a special charm. She had a beautiful voice that people loved to hear. She could make others feel happy and interested when she spoke. But her childhood was not always happy. Her father was not a strong ruler, and many Egyptians didn't like him. Sometimes, the family had to leave Egypt to stay safe. Cleopatra learned early that a ruler must be brave, clever, and ready to face enemies. A young girl with a big dream. When Cleopatra was around 14 years old, her mother disappeared. Maybe she died, maybe she was killed. Her father became sick, and Cleopatra knew her life was about to change. She loved Egypt deeply, even though her family was Greek. She was the first Ptolemaic ruler to learn the Egyptian language, and she called herself the goddess Isis. By the time Cleopatra was a young woman, she was ready to rule. But she also knew the road ahead would not be easy. Enemies were waiting, both inside and outside her family. Still, she promised herself, "I will be brave, I will be clever, I will be strong." And this is where her true journey to the throne begins. 2 rulers, 1 throne. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father, King Ptolemy XII, died. In his will, he said Cleopatra would be queen, but not alone. She had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old. In ancient Egypt, it was normal for siblings to rule together, even if they were very young. But Cleopatra believed she was smarter and more capable than her brother. She had studied languages, history, and politics, while her brother was still a child. She wanted to rule Egypt her way, to protect the country and make it strong. Trouble in the palace. At first, Cleopatra tried to work with her brother, but soon, his advisors began plotting against her. They didn't want a strong, intelligent woman on the throne. They wanted Ptolemy XIII to have all the power because he was easier to control. Things became dangerous. Cleopatra was forced to leave the palace and escape into the desert. Imagine it, the rightful queen of Egypt, walking through hot sand, with only a few loyal friends. No home, no army, no throne. A bold plan, but Cleopatra was not the kind of woman to give up. She knew she needed help to take back her crown. At that time, a famous Roman general named Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. He was one of the most powerful men in the world. Cleopatra saw an opportunity. If she could win his support, she could win her throne back. But how could she meet him? Her enemies controlled the palace and would never let her in. Then Cleopatra had a brilliant idea. One night, she asked her loyal servant to wrap her inside a large carpet. The servant carried the carpet into Caesar's quarters as a gift. When Caesar unrolled the carpet, there she was, Cleopatra herself. She stood tall, beautiful, and full of confidence. Winning Caesar's heart, Cleopatra spoke to Caesar with charm and intelligence. She told him about her struggles, her love for Egypt, and her dream to be a great queen. Caesar was impressed. He saw she was not only beautiful, but also smart, brave, and ambitious. He agreed to help her. Together, they planned to defeat Ptolemy XIII and his advisors. Victory, a fierce battle followed. Caesar's army and Cleopatra's supporters fought hard. In the end, Ptolemy XIII was defeated, and Cleopatra became the queen of Egypt again. But Cleopatra didn't stop there. With Caesar's help, she worked to make Egypt stronger. She improved trade, made smart political moves, and built a strong friendship between Egypt and Rome. And slowly, something else began to grow between them, something more than politics. A queen in Rome. Caesar invited Cleopatra to visit Rome. She arrived with gold chariots, exotic animals, and servants dressed in beautiful Egyptian clothes. The Romans were amazed, but not everyone liked her. Some saw her as a threat, and others spread rumors about her. Then, in 44 BCE, tragedy struck. Julius Caesar was killed by Roman senators who feared his power. Cleopatra was heartbroken. Without Caesar, she was in danger. She quickly returned to Egypt with her son, determined to protect him and her throne. A new alliance. Not long after, Cleopatra met Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful leaders. Their first meeting was unforgettable. Cleopatra sailed to see him on a golden ship, dressed like the goddess of love. Antony was amazed. Soon, they became allies and lovers. They had 3 children together and dreamed of ruling a vast empire. But in Rome, Antony's rival Octavian saw Cleopatra as an enemy. He accused her of trying to take control of Rome and declared war. The final battle. In 31 BCE, Cleopatra and Antony fought Octavian's forces in the Battle of Actium. But Octavian's army was too strong. They returned to Egypt, knowing the end was near. In their last days, Antony heard false news that Cleopatra had died. Heartbroken, he fell on his sword. When he learned she was still alive, his servants carried him to her. They shared their final moments together before he died in her arms. Cleopatra's choice. Cleopatra knew Octavian would capture her and parade her through Rome as a prisoner. She refused to live in shame. Wearing her royal robes and crown, she held her head high. According to legend, she allowed a poisonous snake to bite her, ending her life on her own terms. A queen remembered. Cleopatra's death marked the end of ancient Egypt's independence, but her story lived on. She was not only a queen, she was a woman of intelligence, courage, and determination. She showed the world that women can be powerful leaders, thinkers, and warriors. My friends, Cleopatra's life reminds us that even in the hardest moments, we can be brave, we can dream big, and we can fight for what we believe in. She never gave up on her country or her dreams. Thank you for joining Chasing English today. Keep reading with us every day, because the more you read, the better your English will become. Stay curious, stay strong, and I'll see you in our next story.